I want to talk to you about your book for sure. And of course, your amazing journey in the music industry. That's what our podcast is about, is how you got started and where you got and how you got to where you are now. But I know a lot of that is probably in your book.
Yeah, a lot of it is in my book. It's crazy the stuff that I learned, writing the book that I didn't even realize before. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I just uncovered a bunch of stuff, like how that how I got to where I got. I'd never
Uh-huh.
really sat down and thought about it.
Yeah, I can imagine where you like if you are trying to write your life out from, birth to now, as far as like I'm sure your book is probably linear like that.
It starts when I'm 8 years old on Christmas Eve, and my
Oh
dad
wow.
shot himself. So it starts in the middle of
Oh
chaos.
my.
But
Yeah.
that night really changed my life in a lot of ways, because I got my first diary like maybe 10 minutes after we all found out, and my grandmother like put me in this bedroom off to the side because everybody was flipping out and the phone was ringing off the hook. My dad lived, but I got my first diary that night, and that's where like I started writing. So that's where the book starts,
Oh
like
my.
that night.
Okay. Oh
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, I was reading about it. I mean, obviously, what you've released, and yeah, it sounds like it's a heavy one, huh?
Well, no, the funny thing, my favorite review has been Parade Magazine. They said, because I was so worried about having like so many memoirs, especially, are just so sad and depressing. So I was
Hmm.
really worried about that. And I tried to balance it out. But Parade Magazine said it's both tragic and triumphantly hilarious.
I
So
love
that
that.
that made me happy, because I was really trying to get, not just this negative story. Like so many I pick up, I can't even finish. They're just sad all the way through them.
Right, right. Well, I mean, at least, I mean, look at you obviously turned it all into an amazing positive experience as far as like your song, all the hits you've written on as far as songwriting and I mean, completing the book. I'm sure that in itself was a huge accomplishment. 15 years in the making, like,
Yeah. I still can't believe it's done. I mean, it just took so long. It's been out for 2 weeks. And I
wow.
still I still get on Amazon, look it up to make sure.
Like, is it still there? It
Yeah, because
is.
it's like
Okay.
it's so weird to not be working on it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how often were you writing daily on the book?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
I think I probably have like 3 to 5 times as much time into that book as I do songwriting. Like I've worked on that book more.
Whoa.
Like,
Really?
yeah, I've got like a terrible OCD, and I just kept writing it over and over and over, like trying to make it better. But then I realized it was just getting different. I couldn't even judge if it was better, like,
Right.
and then finally this year, just finally let it go. I just am so happy about it.
That's amazing. Well, first of all, tell me where did you grow up? Alabama, right? I did
Yeah.
read that. Tell me about that.
I grew up in Gadsden, Alabama. That's a pretty small town.
Mhm.
And my dad had always wanted to be a songwriter, but I didn't really know it as a kid. And so when I was in middle school, he moved to Nashville kind of to just go after his dreams. So after him and my mom got divorced, I would go back and forth from Gadsden to Nashville. And I
Oh,
just wanted to
cool.
live in Nashville, but I loved Alabama. Alabama is like so beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places, like the nature and everything.
Mhm.
So I loved being a kid and growing up in Alabama. But then once I graduated high school, like I tried to kill myself too because
Oh my
I
gosh.
couldn't see a way like out of Alabama that like the women in my family, like it was very abusive family. And I just kind of felt like I was gonna be trapped doing the same kind of life. You know what I mean?
Right. Sure.
And then when I finally got to Nashville, I probably wasn't in Nashville 6 months. And then I got married to this guy that like beat me. He
Oh
was
my
like this
gosh.
violent guy, but he was the first person I wrote with. So like I didn't really realize that till I was writing the book. nobody would write with me. I mean, I was waiting tables. Nobody would, I mean, they would kind of just bust out laughing, if I asked them to write, because I was like 20 and waiting tables. And you know how Nashville, everybody's a songwriter. Like every waitress there was a songwriter. And so I would just like hang, and plus where I worked was like a songwriter haven, Brown's Diner.
Okay. It's
And
where all the artists were working before they got into a publishing deal or something.
yes, and I waited on everybody there. Like,
Really?
let's see, Garth Brooks. He came in all the time. I met like Kenny Chesney's one of my best, like oldest friends, and I met him at Brown's Diner. We were both like completely broke, and he was trying to make it, with music. He lost his record deal because they closed down, and it's so crazy looking back. You just don't know, what's going to happen with anybody.
Right. I mean, look at how huge and successful he is. I mean,
It's
geez.
nuts. Like I just sent him, I just signed his book because he was so awesome and generous on Kickstarter. And I just signed his book, and my assistant was taking it to drop it off. And I was thinking, we've been friends like as long as I've been friends with anybody in Nashville, because
That's
he's one of the
awesome.
first people I met. And it's just crazy knowing somebody that long.
Yeah. And then I mean, you're able to write with him too. I mean, you've written big songs with him.
Yeah, we've always written, and we had like, I had a single on him like a year or two ago that I wrote with David Lee Murphy and JT Harding. And
Mhm.
then I had another song with him, Who You'd Be Today, that I wrote with Bill Luther. And that song really, we still get a lot of emails about that song. Like
Oh
that song
yeah.
touched a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Okay. So you're bouncing back and forth between Nashville and Alabama. And so tell me about writing. Were you into music? I mean, you said your dad was a musician. I mean, you obviously had it surrounding you. Like, when did you start really taking an interest in it?
I wrote my first song at 8. My dad came to get me, like he was living and staying in Nashville some after he and my mom got divorced like a couple months after he shot himself. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
then he was just all over the place. But the first time I saw him after the divorce, he came to pick me up, and we went to see this movie, the Buddy Holly story.
Okay.
And I watched him write a song in that movie. That was the first time I had ever seen anybody write a song. And so then my dad, like on the way up to my grandmother's, I said, I know what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a songwriter. And he said, what makes you think you can do that? And I said, because I got a title. And then my title was If Only I Could Hold You Again, I'd Never Let You Go. And then my dad said, I'd always let you know you had a friend if only I could hold you again. And so a few months after that, he came over to the house I was living in with my mom and stepdad. She got remarried like a month later after
Oh
their
wow.
divorce. But so it was wild because he came over there and he came in my room, and he had this like shoebox full of little 45 records.
Uh-huh.
And he had made a demo out of our song, and I saw If Only I Could Hold You Again, and then I saw my name and his name, and I was like, that just did it. It just kind of locked it in my heart. I've got,
Wow.
I'm going to be a songwriter. That's what I got to be.
That is awesome. So you that early, 8, you said, when you that happened? Wow. And you get to see your name on a 45. That's awesome. I mean, there's artists to this day that haven't been able to do that. That's so
Yeah,
rad.
it's really wild. Like, I thought it was a real record. It was a real record, but I thought it was like a real record that you would see in a
Like
record
in a
store.
store.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
and it changed everything.
mhm. And from there, did you just continue writing as far like lyrics and melodies, or did you get into playing an instrument?
Well, it's my whole thing is crazy all the way around, like because I don't even play an instrument. And so like I got into writing when my mom got remarried and my stepdad just kept me grounded. I mean, I was grounded for a total of 3 years of my life. So
Grounded, like punishment grounded?
yes, just like stuck in my bedroom alone. And I mean, I've got scars from being
Oh,
alone, so much.
you're so like bubbly and happy and energetic. It's like, how the hell did this all
Yeah.
happen to you?
I
Oh
think
my God.
I was so happy, just to be out, like, and talk to people because I stayed grounded so much. But being grounded, all I had to entertain myself was notebooks and writing. So like I just flew through notebooks. Like I've always just written compulsively. And then when I got to Nashville, it was pretty wild because I had more titles than anybody I'd ever seen. Like I had just like 100 notebooks full. But I don't play or anything. So I'm a rare, like you don't ever hardly see that.
Right. Yeah. Somebody that can write melody and write lyrics, but isn't playing, have an instrument to accompany that. Was that difficult for you in the sense of like finding people that'd be willing to write with you? Like how
Nobody, yeah, nobody,
no,
nobody
I could,
would write
yeah,
with
if you're there like, yeah, I don't play, but I can write. And then I bet you that's a harder sell than I've got this guitar and I've got this, or this piano,
there was
whatever.
there was one more thing that made it even harder than that. When I moved to Nashville, I thought I was tone deaf. So on top of not playing an instrument, I was terrified to sing in front of anybody. Like so if I heard a melody, I wouldn't even sing it. And I thought I was tone deaf like for probably like I guess about 7 or 8 years. And then when I met my husband, he was wanting me to sing and wanted me to sing some demos. But my dad, told me that if you're tone deaf, you don't know you're tone deaf. So it's true. Like, so you really wouldn't know.
Mhm.
Um, but the crazy part is I sang a few demos and then Martina McBride was like, I love your voice. You've got one of the coolest, craziest voices. So she was trying to get Joe Galante to sign me to a record deal. He was like the head of Sony. And I was just so shocked because she's such a different kind of singer than me. Like she just belts, like she's probably the strongest singer, like one of them ever in country music. And
Right.
and so that like just totally freaked me out. And I sang some more demos. And then this guy in LA, his name's John Kalodner. Then he offered me a record deal out of the blue. He just called me and he was like, he signed like AC/DC. He signed
Oh
a
my,
bunch Aerosmith. He signed a bunch of big rock bands, and maybe there was some other bit, maybe Foreigner. There was some other big,
wow.
but
Yeah.
he had a whole vision of how it was going to be. But I'm gonna move in here 1 second. But
No problem.
I had just I gotta find my charger.
Oh, good. I love this.
I had
A little
just
tour of your house.
yes, a tour like it's so messy. Oh my lord. Let me see how much. I think I'm okay. I don't know where I put that charger. I brought it in and then I've lost it since. I'm okay though for a little while. No, there
Oh,
it is. I got it.
okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, if it starts dying, just give me a heads up and we'll
Yeah,
wrap up to the last
I
question.
found it.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Well, you said, I mean, meeting, like, how are you getting in the room with Martina McBride? Like, it's like, oh yeah, and then she liked my voice, and it's like, what was the first? Like, how did you?
I jumped pretty far.
You know, I was just wondering, like, well, you said you met Kenny Chesney or knew him like early on before. I didn't know if she was another story like that, where maybe she came into the restaurant that you were working at and was like, oh yeah, and before she had a hit or something. But
I'm trying to think how I met her. Um, sh I got okay. So I'm thinking about a bunch of this now. The way I started getting writing deals, like I wrote, with this guy that I married, and he was super talented, but he was also super violent. And
oh,
so I thought he was gonna kill me before I got away from him. Like he beat me up a bunch and put a gun to my head and all this stuff.
oh my
So
God.
yeah, it was pretty nuts. And so when I finally got away from him, right before then, I had been going and playing the publisher's songs that I had written with him. And when I finally got away from him, I had just signed my publishing deal, but I realized pretty quick there was no way in hell he was going to let me write with any guys, which everybody was a guy, like 99.9%.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I didn't know any girl songwriters because they all wrote like Mary Chapin Carpenter. They cut their own songs.
Mhm.
And so I got my writing deal, and then but I had a song that got me the writing deal, this song called Places I've Never Been. And I
Okay.
wrote it with two guys that wrote, I think they wrote it like um Tony Martin and Reese Wilson. They just liked the idea. Like they
Mhm.
just liked the idea. And it was my first, I think it was my first cut. It was one of my first cuts. And so I
That
was
must
so
have been
happy.
a, yeah, validating moment for you.
I couldn't even believe it. I was living in this basement apartment, like full of mice. And it was terrible. Like, and I remember when I heard it on the radio the first time, I had to hold on like to the support pole in the back.
Oh man. Yeah. Wow.
I thought I was gonna just fall out. I couldn't believe it. And then I got a song called Three Chords and the Truth with Sarah Evans. It was the title of her first record.
That's a
And
rad name. I love
I,
that.
yeah, I love
That
that name.
so good.
There's
So
a
you wrote that. Oh my gosh.
There's a crazy story with that song. When I got to town, the biggest writer in town was this guy, Harlan Howard. He was like a legend. Like he wrote, I don't even know what all he wrote, but
Uh-huh.
he's like the legend songwriter. And
Okay.
so he was famous for saying like country music isn't anything but three chords and the truth. So I heard that quote somewhere,
Uh-huh.
and I guess just being so naive, like I was about 22, I heard that quote, and then I was like, I heard something great today to her and this guy, Ron. And I told him the quote, and we wrote it. Well, that song was on a record with a song that Harlan had written. So I just took his saying and just wrote a song out of it. And I didn't realize that was even messed up at the time I did it.
Well,
Like
obviously didn't use it, so you're like, hey.
I never really met him, but he did look at me once and give me like a mean look.
You stole my
Yeah,
quote.
he was like pretty old. Like he kind of reminded me of my pawpaw getting on to me or something.
Uh,
He had been here forever. I
that's
think
hilarious.
he might have just thought, why didn't I write it? I don't know
Right.
what he thought.
Right. He had that gem and he just didn't ever use it.
But
That's funny.
every songwriter knew it. That's the crazy part. And everybody, when they heard it, knew it came straight out of that quote.
Well, obviously nobody cared, so I mean that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. There was another hit like a couple years ago with the same title.
I was gonna say, I think I've heard that recently. Enough, yeah, like I've heard that
I don't
before.
remember who did it. I have to go look it up. I don't
Yeah.
remember how. Like I've been so into the book. I'm curious now how they did it, like the story behind it.
Right. That's interesting. Well, wasn't like Lone Star for you, Amazed, that was like kind of the real massive hit that you had put out. Was that like the life-changing song
Yeah,
for you?
yeah, that was pretty life changing. Like I wrote that with my husband and this friend of ours, Marv Green, and Marv was falling in love, and we were falling in love. And I'm 100% convinced that that feeling just got inside that song.
Mm-hmm.
And like I still hear it, and I feel like other people pick up on it when it starts, and it's like, well, that little
Mm-hmm.
beginning,
Yeah.
like every time it hits me with that feeling from when we were falling in love. And it's crazy because like a lot of my biggest songs have been love songs. My Best Friend for Tim McGraw and Let's Make Love for Tim and Faith, and and Amazed, and there's been a bunch of love songs. And then
Hmm.
Chris, my husband, wrote I Want to Be Your Everything, like for me for our wedding that Keith Urban did. We just
Wow.
we're love song crazy. Like,
That's
but
awesome. He wrote that for you for your wedding, and then Keith Urban cut it.
yeah.
Oh my
Keith,
gosh.
Keith used to tell a story at his fan club like parties. He just thought this was hilarious. Chris wrote me that song, and when he played it for me, just the songwriter in me was like, I don't know about that line, the wheel that never rusts. And Keith was just like, this is like the most romantic song ever, and she's critiquing it. And now that's one of my favorite lines in that song.
That's so funny. I can't
But
imagine your wedding. It was probably just packed with a bunch of country artists.
it was so good. We had a small wedding. We went, it's so weird. There was this song out by Jamie O'Neill called There Is No Arizona. And
Mhm.
in that song, she said something about Sedona. And I just love the name of Sedona, Arizona. So I
Mhm.
went and looked it up, and I was like, I want to get married in this place because it
It's
just
cool.
red rocks. Oh,
Uh-huh.
beautiful. So we went there and got married, and we had like 22 people, and it was so fun. And we went on a hot air balloon ride, and
Wow.
it was beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was thinking like Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, like Kenny Chesney, they're all just hanging with you guys.
Like
Blake
when
Shelton's there.
we used to have Christmas parties, and they like there was a lot of people, like you were liable to see anything there. I remember one time Taylor Swift was on the coffee table singing Man, I Feel Like a Woman, that Shania song.
Oh
And
my
then there was
gosh.
another guy doing a duet with her, and then
I
Jamie
would die.
Johnson, what was he? Jamie Johnson was singing Sweet Home Alabama. It was just really cool. And you never knew who was going to get up. Like, and it was really crazy. One year, a bunch of famous people had sang. And then, because we just had karaoke going in the living room, but so then our
That's
nanny,
brilliant.
like, yeah, it was so fun. Our nanny, who was like, she was a singer, and we kind of knew that. Well, we were in a different part of the house, and we just hear this voice, like, and it was amazing. And it was our nanny. And live, she had blown everybody away. Everybody in there was just like, who is this? Like, and it was her. I never forgot that, because she was as good as anybody that sang, the
That's
whole time.
crazy. Yeah. And then
And
she signed a record deal and you had to find a new nanny, huh?
well, then she
I'm
got
just
married.
kidding.
Like, she was married 6 months later, and she moved to Alabama.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
But it was fun. Like, there was some great, like, my husband would always sing Jesse's Girl because I love Rick Springfield.
Oh yeah,
And
that's awesome.
and there was just some great, like, there was some great performances in there.
That is amazing. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this book. So, Talking to the Sky, it starts, obviously you said, in kind of in a real dark place, and then it kind of twists and turns. Tell me about, tell me about the book.
The book, like, is really just, I'm hoping that this book will help people that feel like lost in the wrong life, that they just know they should be, with a different person, or doing something different, or living somewhere different. It's kind of for people that just feel hopeless and like they don't know what to do, because I've been there so many times. Like, I was there like when I was 19, and almost into my life. And then I finally got to Nashville. I was there again with my ex-husband, like when I would go out in the backyard and just be praying. It's the title's basically praying, like, pretty
Mhm.
much, or talking to the universe, or whatever you want to call it. But I would just be praying in the backyard, please God, get me out of this, because I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know how I even ended up in this. And then, like, when I finally got out of there, then I'm just like out in the backyard, please let this song be a hit. Like,
Yeah,
because you're living so song to song. Like, if even if you had a hit last week, you're worried about when you're gonna have another hit. And
right.
and these days, like, it's just a different world, because I mean, people don't buy music, and if they may pay Spotify, but songwriters don't make hardly nothing. You got to have a song on the radio just about, or be an artist, and you got all your songs, that you
Right.
wrote. But it seems so hard these days because you have to get a single. You could have a cut on any record, but you still have to get a single for it to really pay you.
Right. I mean, yeah, if you get an album cut, so to speak, if it's not the hit, you're probably still making a little bit, but not like, the Maze song, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that that song was out when people still bought music. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
'cause it would have been a whole different deal. It would have
Hmm.
been a whole different deal. And like that song was life changing. It was my husband's first single. So
Wow.
it just messed up everything for him because the song was so big. It's
That's
like it's funny too because we like when we wrote that song all the time people would come up like that's my wedding song that we love that song, and then after about 10 years people would come up and they would just be like I hate that effing song because
yeah,
they're
I've heard it
divorced.
so many times.
Well, usually they're divorced, like it was at their wedding
Oh,
song, and then they're divorced, and then they just absolutely hate the song. Like
oh,
I've had people just tell me, I hate that song more than any song.
oh, that
I
is
guess it's
hilarious.
bad memories, I guess.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, if it took you back to a relationship that ended horribly, I could see why that would make people not like the song as much. But I mean, you're talking about having songs be hits, but you also did something that is hard for. I mean, a lot of songwriters haven't done. And you had a song that it translated to a television show, an intro to a television show, which is huge.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I think like that one, Martina just knocked it out of the park. She always jokes about when I found out she was cutting it, I was like, can my grandmother be in that video?
Really?
He was like, well, yeah. And so my grandmother is in the video and she's playing like electric guitar. And
What?
I'm so happy I have it because she passed away like maybe about 6 or 7 years after the video.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm
so cool
so
though.
glad I have it.
Yeah, it's this one's for the girls is the song in case
Yeah.
you're listening or watching and you're like, what the hell are they
Yeah.
talking
This
about?
one's for the girls.
This one's for the girls. It's on The View. And do you remember getting that call saying that they're gonna use that? And was they obviously it wasn't a show yet, right? And it just became so popular.
Yeah, I just like I'm pretty much like I'll believe it when I see it or hear it.
Uh-huh.
And then I saw it and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I loved the show. And then I just always wanted to write a girl anthem. And
Hmm.
it was so crazy because Maya Angelou, like probably my favorite poet, definitely my favorite woman poet, but she called me and was like, thank you for writing this empowering song for girls. And I was just like, I couldn't even believe hearing her say that. It just blew me away.
That's crazy. That's so awesome. I mean, wow. Yeah, you have this. Not only did you have, Amaze, this huge hit. This one's for the girls on a television show. Sorry, do you have to?
Oscar, I'm filming a podcast, baby. I'll talk to you in just a minute. I don't know. I love you. Okay. That's
All
my
good.
18-year-old who,
Oh, all good. I have two, but they're both at school right now.
yeah, they had like tests, so they're home early.
Oh, right. Yeah. I have a 4-year-old and 12-year-old, and they're both doing like the virtual schooling. Well, one of them isn't. What the 4-year-old goes, but it's like way stripped back. He's like there for 2 hours. So, it's really like not, they're
Yeah.
not doing much for us. So, but the other one's like totally virtual, but
Oh
I
God,
get
it's
it.
so hard. That virtual is so hard.
Oh man. It's a nightmare in itself,
We
aside from
we had a
learning.
disaster. I mean, the first time we did that, it was just a disaster. A complete disaster.
That is funny. Yeah, I mean, everybody's learning. It's all through this Zoom thing. I mean, yeah. And for songwriters like you, this must be a even more strange time. Are you doing like
I, I've
sessions?
I've only written like I've been so busy like with the book coming out that and I self-published it, which was crazy. Like I
Whoa.
don't know, I should have wait. Well, I don't know if I should have or not because it could have been a different outcome. Like I didn't want to wait with the publishers because it's like almost a 2-year wait, and it had been almost 15
15.
years. So I was like, I can't wait anymore. And so I just went ahead, I did a Kickstarter, and like people bought the book and stuff, and then I put it out. Well, like it's doing so good. I'm so happy about it. Like that people, the reviews and stuff, people are
Are
saying
awesome.
they're just awesome. I'm so happy about that. And
Yeah,
people are loving it.
I can't wait to read it. And I did. You had like they did a segment on Fox News, which is
Oh,
huge. Like that's
yeah. Yeah,
so rad.
she recommended it. Dana Perino, she loves the book. She like, she gave it a big boost because I think she doesn't recommend books that much, but she's
Mhm.
recommended a few and they turn out to be big books.
That's awesome. I think this thing is gonna make it to the bestseller list, New York Times, if
Oh,
it
that'll
hasn't
be
already.
so good. I want it to be a movie. I want it to be a movie. And then, do you know Danny McBride?
Yeah. Oh, I love Dan. He's like my favorite actor of all
Like
time.
my favorite.
Oh, that's
He
amazing.
is
Okay.
so my dad. Like I want him
Oh,
to play my dad because he has some quality where he can just make you furious. I mean, he's so inappropriate and messed up, and he just can make you so mad. But at the same time, he's still lovable, and you want to help him, and you kind of feel sorry for him, like you can't help it. Like
right.
if
You want to just give him a hug and be like, "You're get it together, dude."
that quality so hard to find in somebody, but Danny McBride, oh my gosh, my dad's name's Danny Mayo,
Mhm.
so they're just, oh, that's who I would want. I sent it to Danny McBride's house.
You did?
Yes, like
Does he live in
he
or
lives in
North?
Charleston.
Yeah, North Carolina, right?
He lives somewhere, it's a little island or something, I can't remember the name of it, but
Okay.
yeah, I sent him the book. I don't know, like it seemed like a sign because I was thinking about it, and then I read this thing that he said he read 52 books last year, and that was his goal again this year. And I was like, okay, I'm sending him this book, so
Yeah,
maybe it could
definitely.
be one of them.
That is rad. If he played, oh man, that would be so cool if he did that. Even to have the movie about the book would be amazing in
It
itself.
well, it would, like, I get the thing that makes me feel good, like, you never know what's gonna happen, but probably about 80% of the people, like, they tell me they think it's gonna be a movie or it would be a great movie.
Hmm.
I guess, so that makes me happy. They're seeing it like a little movie when they're reading it.
Sure.
That that's part of why it took so long because you don't want to write a book and just like tell everybody just a bunch of information because like nobody people want a story, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like a biography and what I was trying to do are different. Like, because I wanted it to read like The Glass Castle. I don't know, like that was a big movie. It's my favorite memoir, and it was a big movie like a couple years ago with Woody
Hmm.
Harrelson.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it to be like that book, and that so it could be a movie. And the lady that wrote that book, she loves my book, and she sent me a long letter, and I just I couldn't even believe it really. I mean, it just felt so full circle and surreal that
Hmm.
I just was so happy that she gave me a blurb to put on the front. Like it just, and then my other favorite author, Augustin Burroughs, he did Running with Scissors. It was a big movie
Oh
and a
yeah.
memoir,
And
and he gave me a blurb. What'd you say?
wow.
What was the last thing? I missed that last thing
Oh,
you
I
said.
said, didn't they make it into like a play too, or am I thinking?
I think they could have because it had a lot of actors. Like I know that like Annette Bening was the mom, and Alec Baldwin and Gwyneth
Mhm.
Paltrow. There's a lot of big people in it, and I think it could have been a play in New
Ac
York
Yeah,
first.
I think it was. I mean, I don't know if it was first or whatever. I wanna say that they adapted it into that, either vice versa or whatever, I don't remember. But that the writer read your
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, he was so great. Like he gave me a quote too. He was like, "Oh," he said, "this is an emotional powerhouse that must not be missed," and some more stuff. I was blown away because they're just my favorites. It's like your favorite singer, loving your record or something.
Right. That's cool. That's really cool. And then are you still writing songs now?
Well, right now I'm mostly like just trying to get the word out about this book because I
Mhm.
think it's like I think it's gonna have to be at first like a word of mouth kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like that seems like how it's getting around right now because like I've messed some stuff. It's a long story, but I've messed some stuff up. Like I messed up my Amazon where I can't even buy ads. Like I put in my book title the other day and cornbread came up.
Oh.
I've got to like figure out how to just word of mouth, and like promote it other places other than
Mhm.
Amazon.
Sure, sure. Well, that's, I mean, you're getting the word out there, definitely. I mean, getting on Fox News and just doing what you're doing is awesome. And the story sounds like quite the
I'll
ride.
have to get you a book. I have to get you a book. It's it's a crazy story.
Yeah, I would love to read it. So,
And it's a great story for anybody that's like just got a dream and they're trying to figure out how to do it because
mhm.
it just I look back now and it just seems so like I don't know what I was thinking, like I don't know
Right.
what I was thinking to even think I could do this.
But it sounds, I mean, it sounds like from every bad situation you had, you obviously turned it around into something good. I mean, even the first marriage you said was really violent, but that's kind of how you got in the door to songwriting, right? I
It's
mean, he was
yeah, it's so true. I didn't even put that together until about a year ago that I don't even know how I would have, gotten into songwriting because nobody would write with me.
mhm,
Like so I don't think he wanted to write with me in the first place, but that's how we ended up like getting together was because we started writing together.
mhm.
But I don't know that he even wanted to write with with me to start with.
But you got in the rooms, and that's all that really mattered, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, yeah. So
and we wrote some good songs and I learned a lot, but I wish him all the best, but it was awful.
right, right, right. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for talking with me today. I really, really appreciate your time. And
Yeah,
sorry about the big
I've
mix-up,
loved
but
it. I've loved it, and no worries on that. If I could only tell you the stuff I have mixed up, I mean, I'm just it's so hard to keep up with all the stuff, all the
yeah,
appointments and stuff.
sure. I know. Yeah, it's it's quite the weird
Especially
time.
especially when all the days are kind of running together, like we're still here, like
Yes,
we're not working anywhere else.
right. It's everything's done in your house. It's just, yeah, I
I'll
totally.
spend like all day thinking it's Friday and it'll be Wednesday, like that kind of stuff
Yeah.
keeps happening. So
That-
I get
that's
it big time on like the messing up a time.
right, right. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I have a couple pieces of advice. One of them is you got to believe that you're going to make it because like I've worked with so many artists and a lot of times I'll kind of pick, who I want to write with and spend my time with by a lot of things other than just their songs. Like if they're talking like it's going to happen, then I'm way more interested than if they're talking like it ain't going to happen, like
Mhm.
everything that's going against them. So one thing is believing that it's going to happen. I mean, in a dream board, I've always like for years kept a dream board because like so much of it came true. Like I had a Blake Shelton picture up there and a Kenny picture. And then that same year I got songs on them. Like, so I think that's one of the biggest things. And then the second thing is to trust your instinct. Like everybody's going to be telling you something different. And usually people that tell you, you know, you're not going to be able to do that, you can't do this, they're kind of talking to their self. It's like they think that, you know, they couldn't do it. So they're telling you it can't be done. So that would be my second thing, is just trust your heart. Like when it tells you to do something, like don't, you know, just listen to your heart. I see that a lot with female artists because they got so many men, especially, telling them what to do. And they, you know, they don't know what to do, and they start trying to change who they are, and it gets all confused. I've seen that so many times. Like, but the big female stars, they know who they are, and they won't change it. Like Gretchen Wilson, you know what I mean? Or Taylor's a perfect example. They're Miranda, pretty much all the Marin, all the females that make it, it seems like, have a very clear idea of who they are, and they're not going to just go do something else. So that would be my second piece. And then my third and biggest piece is don't give up. Just like you may get that, I think is the biggest thing. Like my husband was telling me something the other day, and he was like, you know, you just don't give up. Like he was talking about the book, because he was like, you know, I didn't know if you were ever going to finish this book, because it took 15 years. And but he's like, you just won't give up, you know, like, and so I think that's a big thing, is not giving up, because I think a lot of people might give up like right before something's going to happen. You know, like it could be 6 months before or a year before, but I think a lot of people also don't give it long enough, you know, to happen. Like if they were to move to town, somebody told me that most of the leases in Nashville, like there'll be a 6-month lease, because a lot of people move here and give it 6 months. And that just ain't long enough, you know.
I've heard Nashville's a 10-year town. That's what people have told me.
I believe that. Yeah, because you got to get relationships with people, and like, you know who's doing what and who's looking for what songs. And I think a 10-year town's good. I always think too, with songwriters, from the time they get a publishing deal, it seems a lot like college. Like by the 4th year, they'll be getting probably, you know, like probably multiple singles or something. If I was ever going to do a publishing company, I would sign somebody like coming out of their first deal. That's what we always talk about. Like,
okay,
because they've learned all this stuff, and that's about when it hits. Like I had some singles earlier, but most people, that's how it goes. Most all my friends that I've known, and I think just because I was writing with some really talented people, like those guys that had hits, you know, before I took that idea. So I think that's why it was a little earlier for me.
That's amazing. But,
yeah, my heart goes out to anybody like that's wanting to move to Nashville, or, you know, just any dream. I don't even care what it is. Like that's one of my biggest passions, you know, is wanting to help anybody that I can, you know, like make their dream come true, or not give up, or encourage them, anything like that. Because that's like, for me, I have like it just devoured so much information like that for myself, you know, to not give up, like all kinds of Tony Robbins, and just, I love Tony Robbins. Like he's amazing. He's a good one to listen to.
Yeah, you know, he's pretty blunt.
Yeah, if you get down. Me and him got in a screaming match, like at one of his seminars. It's on YouTube somewhere. Like, but it turned out to be really great. But he's real good at knowing what somebody's doing wrong, and then just kind of pointing it out, like, you know, what's holding them up. But I loved it. I would recommend that thing to anybody, but he is very blunt. I was being blunt right back.
That's amazing.